Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Fix, filmed this time round at my house because Glenn has roped me into hosting something that he has written. That's to be filmed over the next couple of days. Somehow, as part of that deal, he's invited himself round to my house to stay the night so we can get filming in the morning.
A lovely holiday in around the corner. That's what we stayed there.
But it's 8:30 at night. We've just got off a live call with Fix Accelerator members, and I thought, let's keep working. Let's do an episode of The Fix. So today we're going to look at a piece of copy and see if we can't sharpen it up a little bit. First of all, to kick us off, Glenn, would you read it aloud?
I will read it aloud and then I will give you some context, but first of all I will read it aloud. I'm going to start here with the name of the...
I'm going to start... read the copy.
I'll read the copy. I'll read the copy. I was going to give you some context, but I'll read the copy.
Do you want to start with the first word and move on from there?
No, I'm going to read it backwards. Knowledge for thirst, your quell. Thinking on paper. Know the future. Listen to the only podcast to guide you through the underbelly of Web3 storytelling, culture, emerging technology, and entertainment. Every Thursday, the Thinking on Paper podcast cuts through the noise to bring you the cultural, technological, and entertainment conversations from the underbelly of emerging tech. Join your hosts, Jeremy Gilbertson and Mark Fielding, as they speak to the builders, futurists, thinkers, and writers creating the future of digital society. Whether you're interested in artificial intelligence, NFT tickets, blockchain, filmmaking, and collaborative storytelling, or crypto-backed self-publishing, bi-directional value exchange, and music in the metaverse, you'll find something to change your perspectives, ignite your curiosity, and quell your thirst for knowledge. I'll stop there. To give you the context that I was so desperately trying to give you, it's not a headline, but it says Thinking on Paper. The website, the landing page, so this is a podcast landing page to attract people to listen to a podcast, and the way the website looks is that Thinking on Paper, which is the title of the podcast, is like twice the size. So it's like a massive headline, and I think that's important for the thing. Then the Know Your Future, Listen to the Only podcast is like the sub-deck copy, if you like, and the rest is the lead. So I think that's worth breaking down.
For the sake of reviewing this copy, I think we should say we can't change the name of the product, which is the name of the podcast.
No.
So Thinking on Paper is the name. It doesn't necessarily have to be the headline. I think this is... So, there's 2 points I would make just to get started on this. One is the copy lays out the positioning and the description of the podcast, the product itself, pretty well. Yep. It's all there and it's quite clear. However, it is written sort of from the point of view of the maker of the podcast. Like, this is a podcast that is about these things.
Yeah.
Whereas what we want to do is put the reader at the heart of. So if you are at the heart of our pitch, and then and therefore the product is, I won't say it's peripheral, but the product is orbiting the prospect, not the prospect orbiting the product, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And it's really easy to do it the other way around because you're coming at it from the point of view of the product, especially if you've created it. Yeah. So even if you listen to those first lines, know the future, listen to the only podcast to guide you through, you're quite passive within that. Mm-hmm. Like, listen to, and I know it's a podcast, but like, we want to position the reader right at the heart of the story and make them an active part of what this whole pitch is about, and making them a listener immediately classifies them as something else.
We're in a niche area here. We're in like Web3 technology, we're in blockchains, NFTs, all that kind of stuff. But interesting in how it applies to entertainment and all this kind of stuff. And I had a little look at the podcast itself, and it's like, so there's depth of knowledge, and this is meant with all the love in the world because I am one, but it's geekery. It's like you're geeking out on this particular subject, which is great. That's like the strength. It's what we try and do in copy terms.
I was happy with the geekery.
Yeah, and I think all the geekery is there. But so therefore, we know our audience. We're looking straight away to people who are going to be like, oh, thank heavens, there is a geekery thing going on here. I'm leaning into that. I want more of that. So I think that is where what you're saying about that passive thing of like, if you like listen to this, it's like, no, you want to reach out and grab your prospect, because the aim of the game here is the end of this step is, so listen to this podcast. The first thing you want to do is lean out and go, hey, you're the person, and we've got the thing. I know you like this, all this stuff. So you've got such an opportunity to reach out in a very relatable way to your fellow geek. And I'm saying that it sounds the thing, but it's you can reach out to them and go,
there's a shared language.
This wouldn't it be ace if someone was actually telling you about this, like if this was what's going on, this is happening, this stuff. You can commit to the fact that your listener here is going to know that stuff. If they don't, they're probably not listening to this podcast. You're not trying to get people who are kind of peripherally, to use the word you use, but peripherally interested in this stuff and not really going to. It reminds me of the Wire kind of thing. That's written for drug dealers and cops, and then everybody else finds it amazing because it's written very authentically for drug dealers and cops.
But there are. I think there's a way of bringing that round. So we don't want the reader to be passive.
No.
We don't want them to just be a listener.
Yeah.
So the question to ask yourself is, what are we really selling here? Yeah. And I would say things like this, there's two sides to it. Then one is the inverse of the other. So with technology, fast-moving technology, I'm going to come back to that idea of it moving on very, very quickly. There's two sides. There's the fear of falling behind, and there's the desire to stay ahead.
Yeah.
I would say this is a desire to stay ahead category, but there'll always be a undercurrent of fear of falling behind the trend, behind the times, even the sort of I wouldn't call it jargon because it's not that, the lexicon of Web3 and NFTs. Yeah. It's a whole new language that, you turn your back and they're doing something new with half of this stuff. Yeah. So this desire to stay ahead is kind of key. And I think that's what you're really selling here. You're not selling listenership to a podcast. You're selling the ability to stay at the, I'm going to use a terrible phrase, bleeding edge of trends that are moving very, very quickly. So if we just look at the copy again, we've got know the future, listen to the only podcast. If you just change a few words there, know your future, and then start by saying the world, the Web3 world, or the whatever verb you want to use there. Sorry, it's not a verb. The whatever world, a descriptor. I'm going to use the word decentralized. Mm-hmm. The decentralized world is moving on quicker than anyone thought possible. Then, rather than just name checking some stuff, I'd give some concrete examples. So I'd say, I'm going to use stuff, I'm not au fait with this, so I'm going to use some terrible ones. Goldman Sachs is already selling NFTs to its private clients. Snoop Dogg just launched a thing on blockchain. I don't know why I went from Goldman Sachs to Snoop Dogg, but I would cite some examples of the world moving on. Well, you see, very quickly, know your future is a promise. We can show that the world is moving quickly. That instigates that idea of you could fall behind, but don't worry, we're not going to make that explicit. This podcast is your way of staying ahead. That just shifts the focus round. So it's all about me. My world is changing. Look, show me that it's changing. We have created, or this podcast is your, it's your guide to the future. It's your roadmap of the future. It's the only way of staying ahead in a world that is changing faster than anyone believes. And then you can get into the description. It comes out, it's free, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's slightly different, not radically different, but it puts the reader and the benefit right at the heart of the story.
Is it show, don't tell a little bit in the sense that the list of that stuff where it's referring to thing, and I did feel like naturally when you're doing the read aloud, it's too many things, just the natural rhythm there was like, it felt like there was 4 things or maybe 6 things when it wanted to be 3 in and out kind of thing, but then it's all right.
We're being interrupted by my wife. This is genuine on location filming. What's going on, love?
You can lock me in, so I have a bath.
Yeah.
That's hard to edit out that particular thing.
It's good. We'll leave this in. Leave this in.
I hope you can hear her request that she can have a bath. That's
yeah. It's all right. There's a long history in the Fix of talking about baths. No one can ever say we're not professional. Well, maybe we'll just have a little. Leave some of that stuff in.
Just for.
But just as an example, like whenever you give a list of stuff like that, where it's like whether it's this or that, whether it's that, you're always missing a chance to give real specific examples.
That's where I think if you're going into list mode, it's just an easy clue. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't do that. Like a lot of people do it successfully, and 3 quick hits just to kind of create a space where you're like, oh, we're in the same. We know what we're talking about, right? Yeah, I can refer to this, and this, and you go, cool. But I think here in a limited space, and I think we're already quite passive. If you just flip that and changed it into that Snoop Dogg's got an NFT, whoever's got this. Weirdly, I was going to go to Kevin Spacey from Snoop Dogg.
But it's that.
Who would do that? But you want that
sense of energy that something's happening.
Showing that stuff. Yeah. You know that stuff when you're talking about this because you're showing it rather than just saying, I'm telling you I know these things. It's just that different. It's another clue in copy where if you see lists, it's a warning sign. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's just, right, you're listing here. Have I got time in 3 paragraphs of copy to be doing a list? Probably not. Like in a longer page, you might be able to say, if you're interested in things like you haven't got the time here, you're trying to get someone to listen to your podcast, to engage with your product, you haven't got the time to just be listing this stuff off. So I think that is a much better way to kind of evidence that your geekery by showing it in the real world.
Yeah, and add that sort of energy. And just to work through the rest of the copy, like with that small tweak, and it is a small tweak, it just comes from asking yourself, what are we really selling? And it's never the product, it's always something else. So to be meta, the Fix, it's not a podcast or a YouTube channel or a video about copywriting. It's based around something else, which is the only way you get better as a copywriter that any great copywriter will tell you is by having your work reviewed. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do. So that's just a description of what we do, really, but it's more orientated around what we really have to do here. So if we work through the copy, we talk about hosts and guests, but in the formulation that I suggested, they don't need to be hosts anymore. They're guides. We're your guides to the fast changing future or whatever. And the guests, it's sort of access to the people who are changing the world. Yeah. So it all just becomes a bit active. So the podcast is the way you stay ahead. The guests are the people, the hosts are the guides that show you what's important and what you need to pay attention to. Yeah. And the guests are access to the latest information, the latest intelligence, the latest insights. All of those things then serve that big idea. And everything else that's there just can kind of formulate around that idea. But all of a sudden it's like, this isn't a podcast. This is your guide to the future. This is your window on the future. I think
probably we're in a realm of podcasts. It's relatively new. I know everybody, man and his dog, has got a podcast these days, but
your dog actually does have a podcast.
He was on a podcast. If you listen to the archive on the podcast, there's various clips of Pablo talking. But
only speaks Spanish, though.
But I think it's because we're still selling the product, the newness of it. It's easy to slip into that. I mentioned the size of the headline, not the headline, the title of the podcast. But I think that's another clue where that's such a wasted space by, like, you can have the logo or the name, but wouldn't that space be much better served with a headline that's pulling people in to talk about what you are talking about. You are not selling a podcast. We are not selling a book. We are not selling a TV show. We are selling ideas. Like we are selling things. Intangible feelings and emotions and knowledge and stuff like that. We're not selling a podcast, a book, a laptop. It's something different. And I think, again, it's just that clue. You don't need to have that. Don't get me wrong, have the logo there or the name saying things.
Yeah, you could do something with the
I would
design.
just flip that around. And I just think, I think that's in theme with showing the clue that we're talking about selling the product. We're selling the sausage rather than the sizzle.
Yeah, which is really easy to do because it's.
We all do it.
I would suggest this. I would guess. I don't know, but this has probably been written by somebody who either created the podcast, works on the podcast, or works very, very closely because it's clearly orientated from within the product.
Yeah.
Whereas I come at it as a as a punter, as a potential listener, and as a copywriter. I'm only interested in myself. But if we can just orientate it around, I mean, that question, what we really trying to sell, this works great for that because, you know, the old advertising adage of like, you don't sell to who someone is, you sell to who they want to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of self-actualization. Things like this, things about staying ahead. You know, think about magazines like Wired or GQ and stuff like that. They're all built on that thing that you want to be the kind of person that is this, that's ahead of these things, that understands them. That you want to be the person that is explaining what Web3 is and how to make money from it, how to understand it, how to build it into your business. You want to be explaining that to your friends around the pub because you're the one that knows. Yeah. You're the one that's in the know. It's
the classic dinner party. Like thing. We work in the financial industry selling stock tips and what have you. We're not selling stock tips. We're selling the ability to at the dinner party go, oh, did you know? Did you hear about?
You want to
this
be the
company?
smartest guy in the room.
That's what you do.
And obviously there's an element of that which is make better investment decisions and things like that. But there's an element here of that which is make better investment decisions. You know, NFTs and things like that. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain is massive. But from a business level, your reader wants to stay. They don't just want to be up to date with that stuff. They want to be ahead of it. Yeah. They want to be absolutely on the money with all of that stuff. That's who your prospect is, and your product serves that perfectly. But you just got to talk to them about it from their point of view and not relegate them to the status of a listener. You're a listener to a podcast. No, you're a person that needs and wants to stay ahead of this huge change that's taking place, and we will help you do that by bringing you this and this and this and this. It's just a simple shift. Yep. It's put the prospect at the heart of the pitch, and the product goes round that, not the other way round. To repeat myself, that's a great metaphor. I'm proud of myself.
It's a nice metaphor. I think it's good advice.
Yeah, it's good. It's good advice. Right. Glenn has demanded that he gets to have a bath before taking to his bed.
No, you made that weird. Depending on how much we edit out of Gemma.
Oh yeah, she's having a bath first. Yeah,
that's not going to be a good situation. Yeah.
Also, the lights in this room are going slightly.
I'm worried because is that the water leaking? I mean, we are in a separate building to your house, which was part of my contract to stay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right, we'll sign off there. Thank you very much for joining us. Send your copy to us at feedback@thefixedcopywriting.com. We will review it free of charge. As much copy as you like. We will do as many of these, as many episodes of The Fix as there are pieces of copy to review. So
I'm also going to end the episode simply because A, we teased in the last episode Grant Perry. We'll be getting Grant Perry on.
Actually,
and
Grant
B, we teased Fix Fest announcements. It's coming, and it's even better than we anticipated. Yeah. But I'm not going to tell you anything about it. But we have got incredible people. Incredible things happening. You'll just have to keep waiting. We're not doing it on purpose.
You don't want to say the date?
We are just... The date... Should we say the date?
The date is...
Because that's not changing.
The date is the 14th of September, so put that date in your diary. It's going to be in central London. We'll send you more information.
The venue is even cooler than a thing in itself. It's all going to be beautiful. It's going to go a bit crazy, I think. So, anyway, we will get on it and... Yeah.
And we will have Grant on, although I did forget to email him, and he watched the episode of The Fix where we referenced him and then messaged me to say, Is this how you invite people on? You just put a come and get me out on an episode and do nothing else. Grant will be coming on at some point when we've got all of this filming done that we're doing this week, so maybe next week or the week after. Hi Grant, if you're watching.
Yeah.
I'm sorry
sorry for keeping you up that night. I'll have to tell you about the snoring story when we slept together in a chateau in France, but we'll save that for the episode.
That, my friends, is a hook, and it's also a good note on which for us to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you next time. Goodbye.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.